Good evening and welcome to Book Club Conversations Series 8. Through this series, we present conversations that feature professionals and entrepreneurs as reflect on practical applications all business owners should be mindful to engage as they think big and upscale operations. The focus of this evening's discussions is innovative business planning strategies for growing SMEs. I'm your host, Alina Lewis, author and success coach. And joining the conversation in this episode is Rawle Rollocks, impact strategist, Anthony DeFreitas, financial analyst, and Candace Andrews, online event host. Now remember, for reminders and notification each time we go live, if you're viewing us on LinkedIn, be sure to follow. If you're viewing on YouTube, make sure you subscribe. And if you're going to be viewing on Facebook, make sure you click like so that you won't miss not one of these awesome conversations. We go live every Thursday for the next 6 weeks as we get into the modus operandi that business owners should be mindful of as we navigate through this COVID recovery world. Now, this session is made possible through the support of Launchpad Consultancy. So we're definitely going to take a word from them as we get our panelists in studio for this evening's conversation. And this evening, welcome all of you, ladies, gentlemen, Mr. DeFreitas, Mr. Rollocks, Miss Andrews. Welcome to Book Club Conversation Series 8.
Thank you very much.
Hello.
Nice to be here.
Pleasure.
Yes, same here. It's nice.
I'm super excited to have you. And as you guys know, we're chatting about innovative approaches to business planning and business modeling. And I do want to start off the conversation by asking, when we think about business planning, really, what are we talking about? What should people understand about the core that is business planning? And I'm leaving it open for dialogue.
I guess to start it off, I would say in one statement, charting the future. I believe a lot of persons, they believe if I just have the right ingredients and the right people, everything should be okay. But a big, huge part of success is planning. So what do we want to see? What do we want to achieve? What are some of the things that needs to happen? And so in one statement, charting the future, that's what that means to me, if I was to summarize it.
Awesome. Gentlemen, would any of you like to chime in?
Yeah, I'll take a jump in. So I think one of the main things we have to consider when we're talking about planning of a business, we have to have one main precursor, and that is vision, right? Because a lot of people, dive into businesses of one sort or another without any plan, yes, but some also jump in without a clear vision. And sometimes the vision keeps changing from this to that to something else with each obstacle that they encounter along the way. So in order to clear the way, right, I would recommend that anybody going into a business or trying to expand your business and take it to another level, you must look at your vision. You must have a clear vision. And one of the criticisms that we find with us here in Trinidad and the developing world on the whole is that we tend to do things, we call it a VAPS. We tend to have a kind of VAPS mentality that, a lot of people, and that is a problem. We need to really start off with a clear vision. And when I say vision, I mean you have to decide exactly what area you want to go into before you do the plan. You can't do a plan effectively if you're not sure. Sometimes you want to take a little stab at this, a little stab at that. Now, you have to take the most time you should take in this whole process is the planning. But before the planning, you have to have the vision. In terms of clear vision, in terms of what you want to do, and then the second phase would be to seek competent advice. I would recommend that, because one of the problems you have is people try something, that don't make sense. You're talking about investing your money, investing your time, investing your resources. So my recommendation will be, after the vision, when you're starting the planning process, consult with a competent professional to assist you in terms of compiling all the dependencies on the planning. Thanks a lot.
Yeah, I would add, it's a very interesting question, and good night to the fellow panelists and to all the viewers and listening and those listening. It's a very challenging question, I would say, Alina, because I think we really need some sort of working definition. Because I think if you ask anybody if they plan, they would say yes.
Right.
All right. So there's a plan, and then there's a plan, which really speaks to the quality of it, the depth of it, the breadth of it. You understand? Whether it's an ad process or whether it's ad hoc. So you'll find that some people get up in the morning, they look at their situation, and they say, okay, this is what I'm going to do. And in their mind, that's a plan. And I guess in some ways that could be a plan too, right? So I think what to me, what your question is really begging at is, what quality of planning we, right? Because everybody has some way of planning. Some people plan and they don't write it down. You understand? It's all in their heads. You understand? Some people plan and they only plan short term. They have medium term, they have no long term. They don't plan quarterly, they don't plan for seasons, right? No, there's something called just-in-time planning, all right? And you'll find, particularly in the pandemic times, that type of approach has been important because you're really not clear on what's going to happen 3 months from now. So you have to have a plan as to how you survive. You understand? So that was a survival plan. So you see what I'm getting at? So there are so many different aspects of planning. I think it might be important to look at what would be some of the qualities of an effective plan. So I would say, in addition to having a vision, all right, and talking to the right persons, I think a big part of planning would mean being strategic. And when I say strategic, I mean take into consideration the environment that you as a business person is planning. So for example, right now the push to things becoming digital. And if you're a business person right now and you are ignoring that trend and you're not considering that as your plan, you're going to find yourself probably out of business, because every business today on the planet is being affected by the digital transformation that's taking place and the virtual world. So there's so many things happening around us, We have the Venezuelan crisis, we have people losing jobs, people who new jobs emerging. So I would always encourage business persons to sit down and assess the environment. If you take a scholarly perspective of it, something called the PESTLE, you break it down into the political environment, the economic environment, the legal environment, and so forth. So whatever tool you use, I think is important and strategic, that you can know and understand the context in which you're planning, so that your plan doesn't fall short, so you don't waste money and time in trying to achieve the goals that you want to achieve. So I'll start with that.
Great, thank you so much. I want to ask, a lot of times there is this term, business modeling. And in many instances, there is almost an interplay between the notion of what it means to plan, and what it means to model. Would any of you want to be able to chime in at this time to give an idea of what really is the difference then, as we think about the framework for business planning, that allows us to understand the difference between business planning and business modeling?
Yeah, you're right. Sometimes people use the terms interchangeably, and I believe one process affects the other. And if I could get the analogy right, because I like to speak in analogies, I would say the business plan is almost like the blueprint for the house or the building. And then the business model is the actualization or the manifestation of that plan into all the rooms and all the house, the roofing, foundation, all these different things. So I like to see the business plan as something that you chart out. I want to use that word. And then the modeling is the systems to support this charting, the different things, different areas that need to happen there. So of course, when somebody says, "Wow, you're making a lot of money. What's happening there? What's your business model like?" And really what they're trying to ask is, what does your plan look like and how does it work for you in the actualization of your business? How was that manifested itself? What does it look like? So a lot of persons, they have an idea of, okay, my business will need X, Y, and Z, but they don't understand that the X, Y, and Z are the systems, but you need, as it was mentioned before, competent persons to run these systems. And then, of course, you need to also have a system of monitoring and evaluating these systems, because we believe once we set it up, it should work on its own, but it's not like that. And so I believe the modeling also should, I like the play on words. So, are you modeling the way for your business to even be sustainable and to continue? So, if you are the trendsetter in a particular sector, is your business model so strong and sturdy that somebody else could pattern from that model and build their own framework and everything from that? So, are you modeling the way? Is your business really doing what it says it's supposed to do? And is it really providing the services it's supposed to provide? And then, in the midst of that, um, can we identify the working systems in your business? Because some people just believe, well, I'm a small business, I'm a cottage industry, nothing major needs to happen here. But as I tell people, the pandemic has taught us, whether it is micro or macro, it's still effort, it's still a lot of work, it's still a lot of investment. So for me, just to break it down for the simple man to understand, the planning is more of what I like to say the blueprint, is the reference points you can go back to, things that you're charting out, connecting the dots, and then the model is what it blossoms into. I know Rawle might be able to add something to that, but I think in my sphere of understanding, that is how I see it coming coming all together.
Allow me to ask, one of the things I totally love with Mr. DeFreitas, he has this wonderful way of bringing very practical examples. So, Mr. DeFreitas, allow me to put you on the spot. When you think about business planning and business modeling, I would love for you, if you could bring that perspective, please. You know, Candace gave us in terms of an analogy, but I want to ask you, would you be able to, for persons who are looking on and thinking about their business and trying to figure out what's the difference between my plan and my model, would you be able to give maybe some real life Trini
Certainly.
examples?
Certainly, I think you feel
Understanding.
I think you read my vibe there. I don't know if you see it on my face or, but I think you read my vibe clearly. Because while Candace was speaking, I was saying yes, I could relate to that. They were excellent analogies, and what I would do is just put it in a little perspective and break it down a bit. So basically, the business plan should be a coming together of a number of various aspects that you see falling into place to bring your business to fruition. So one is you would look at your sources of finance. That's the last thing going, and then you're working back now. You're looking at a marketing plan, you're looking at communications, you're looking at a sales plan under the finance. You must have a set of financial projections that you would have. How much money would you invest in the particular line of business you're going into? Is it a service industry? Is it a manufacturing? Is it, sales? Whatever it is. So once you decide those things coming out of your vision and you decide what type of business you want to do, and let me tell you something, this follows on the thinking from the Vision Works series, and the last one he did was intentionality. So once you're intentional in terms of where you want to go, and I keep telling people, don't hold back. Think about it based on your resources, what it is you want to do. And when you find out what you want to do, you get your assistance in terms of doing the business plan and setting up the business, find out what it would cost and so on. But strictly, if we go back to the planning, planning for business, you must have the marketing plan, you must have the financial statement projections, and within that, you would have what you're going to sell, how much you're going to sell, how much you're going to cost to produce it. You must have those things into the plan itself. And the way you get those things into the plan is, as Candace said, you have to do the modeling. So what the modeling does, it takes the plan could start off as a rough sketch, right, to inform the next step, which will be the modeling. And in the modeling, you could actually look at scenarios. So let's say, for example, you want to do a little catering business. That is a fairly easy to set up business, right? And you say here, what? I want to start off small and I want to make this $2,000 a month. How do I do that, right? And the thing is, you have to do a lot of, as Rawle said, you have to think strategically. So for example, I might have a vision in my mind. I want to sell 5 different menu items, or let's say 10 different menu items on rotation. Every day I have 3 items that are going to sell as a lunch, for example. And I say, that's how I starting off. Do I say, I could sit down and say, okay, I plan in my menus. My menus would be I'm buying broccoli, cauliflower, romaine lettuce. All the heady things are calling, right? All those fairly expensive things, carrots, and this and the other. Or you could think strategically and look for things, be flexible and move with the market. So I have a friend who actually have a catering business. And what he does, he don't buy the romaine lettuce and all them things, He does actually go out there and look for what's selling for the most reasonable price in the wholesale market. And he buying X amount of this, Y amount of that. And he would store it in the freezer for the days that he have to prepare his lunches. And he manages to keep his price. He keeps his price very, very competitive, right? So all those things would be built in to the modeling, which speaks to the plan. So is a feedback. So it starts off with the plan. The plan could be a rudimentary 4 or 5 page document that are going to outline all the steps to opening a business. 1, get in contact with a competent professional, accountant, or somebody who is very familiar with the processes and helping you register the business, set up the tax structures, and so on, as the first step. And then when you do that, then you work on the modeling now. The modeling would show the scenarios that you expect to encounter. So it's an estimate of how much you're going to sell, based on the surveys you would have to do. And you have to do surveys because at the end of the day, this is what social media allows. When you have a presence, so the communications plan is the next aspect of the planning, right? Where you could have an IG account, Facebook. Well, Facebook is for more the older people now. And you have the other social media platforms, a website, right? And there are actually some really excellent resources out there. There's a website called Fiverr, Fiverr, that provides resources at very reasonable cost for everything with a business, from certain levels of modeling if you want to do whatever type of business, you could actually get professional help. And there's a system for reviews on the suppliers within the website, right? So as I said, this in summary is really the planning starts off the process with a rudimentary set of items you need to do to get a business off the ground. And then the modeling looks at the scenarios you need to put in place to make it happen. So as Candace said, is the blueprint compared to the actual model of the house, so to speak. So the modeling is what gives life to the business without actually getting into it yet, right? The modeling allows you to see. Sometimes people do a plan, then they do the modeling. And when they do the modeling, what happens? They change strategic direction because they realize, you know what, this particular line of business may not be the most effective. So thanks a lot.
Thanks. Mr. Rollocks, I want to ask you something in particular, because two things stand out to me. Mr. DeFreitas, he spoke about having all these different plans: marketing, sales, communications, finance, and so on. And then he used a strong word, a word that might seem strong to a lot of people. He used the word investment. And I'm imagining people in our COVID recovery state saying, one, I had money. We're getting money to invest. And I'm also imagining the person who is on the ground running, thinking, when do I have time to create all these plans? How do you help people to better understand how to position themselves? Because certainly the fact that we're having this conversation means the whole notion of business planning and business modeling is important. But for the people who are going through it every day, that they're feeling as though their business on survival mode for 2 years plus, how can you help them to understand what they should do, or the mindset they should have in order to position themselves to activate some of the things Mr. DeFreitas was just mentioning?
Yes, thank you. And yes, I love the points that were shared earlier. They're very pertinent to a very, I would say, relatively new in terms of the planning, the business planning history. It's sort of like a new one, a new term, maybe over the last 10 years or so. And for me, when a person, each person getting into business, whether in a business a year, 2 years, 3 years, has to begin to look at your results, right? And I think that's really where it really starts. When you begin to realize that your expenses are out of control, you're finding challenges with sustaining your markets, getting new markets. Where do I get customers from? I have all this thing I need to do, and I don't have the money. All those things give an indication of the need for planning, right? And in the environment that we live in now, right, there's so much opportunity for addressing business models, and that is really the key, right? There's a great opportunity now because of all the business models that are available now. One aspect of the business model that I like to also connect with what has been shared before is the whole idea of how you make money, right? And your business model essentially comes down to that. How does your business make money, right? And you'll find that two businesses can be the same, but they have a different business model, right? I'll give you an example. So you may be a hairdresser, right? And this is really pertinent to the times that we're living in, right? You may be a hairdresser, and because of COVID, you can't see people. So your business model is somebody comes, sit down, I give them a service, all right, and they pay me. So I'm trading my time for money. That's a business model, right? But is that the only way to make money as a hairdresser? Of course not. So you find what some other hairdressers have done is this. They've added chairs, and they said, okay, I will rent chairs because I have the space. So other persons who don't have a space can come by me, so I make rental income. You see what I'm saying? So that is a business model. Another person might then say, well, maybe I could sell some hair products. So while I'm doing hair and I'm earning money from the chairs, you understand? I have hair products and skin products and things being related. You see what I'm saying? So all these are different ways of making money. Now, in the times we live in, we've gone online now. And I know this is something that Miss Andrews can go to tongue on, right? So you can do a master class now. That's another way of making money. That's another business model. And certainly the kind of things that persons in today's environment can begin to look at if they feel a little daunted. So their business planning must include looking at all the variety of models that are available. A big element of the models that are coming out now is where you use other people's energy and time. That's a big thing in business modeling. In other words, is there a way I can continue to take money, make money, leverage my time, right, and still have money running? We call it passive income or residual income. All right. So every person, no matter what your business is, you can basically strip it down and look at how does money come into my business? Is it the time that I'm spending? Is it that I have other persons connected with me? All right. So all those are the ways. Now there's some. I'll give you another business model. There's some persons who know nothing about hair, but they like hair. They don't know, they don't have the art, or they don't have the skill, but they can talk to people and they become a broker. So they are connecting people who want hair care and beauty care, and they are making a commission. That's another business model. You see what I'm saying? So I think what I would advise persons is to look at your skill set, look at your resource, all right, and look at the models. There are many different models out there. You know, in recent times we've been exposed to things like the Uber model, which is a new model, right, of providing transport. So instead of buying vehicles, I have persons bring their own vehicles and I give them something based upon what I am. So the business model is the software system I set up to book transport. You see what I'm saying? So I think that's the kind of creativity and innovation that's required in business planning today. All right. We have to look at the digital environment, the digital space, and look at all the different ways we can make money and pick the one that is best suited to my skill set, to my time, to the money that I have. You know, you may be a single mother, for example, and you have children. How can I make money in that? I have to change my business model to suit my situation.
Yeah, definitely. And even as we're talking about planning and so on, I want to encourage those who are viewing live, be sure to get in the comment section, share with us your views on business planning and business modeling and how it would have impacted you. And of course, feel free to share questions. So for instance, we do have a question coming in. And this question is for Anthony. Mr. DeFreitas, a question asks, in what context do you include communication into the business plan?
Right.
How do you include communication into the business plan?
Yeah, and that speaks really to how you're going to get your product out there to the market, how you're going to make people aware. So the communication ties into the marketing as well. So it really speaks to how you're going to get your message, what you have to offer, how you're going to get it out there to people. And that's why I suggested things like Instagram, to a lesser extent Facebook, but Instagram really is the way to go, because Instagram, and let me tell you, what is happening now, there are companies out there that manage, I know a business, this business makes probably about 400,000 or 500,000 a year, is a little restaurant business, and they actually use Instagram to update their page every day. And the customers actually go on from the night before to see what the menu is for the next day, and they go flocking there. So they spend, I think it's probably like about 100 and something US or 200 and something US per month. And they actually get a lot of hits because the quality of the content that these people put together for that IG page. And if you know how Instagram works, you use the story. So every day the followers look for a story to show up with what new they have coming up, you know, and they're ready to hit that pavement the next day to get this stuff, whether it's curbside or whatever. So that really is the crux of the communications part of the whole equation.
Yeah. You know, I want to ask us to do some reflections, because of course it's so nice when we can talk about the people along the road, but I want us to do some personal reflections as we think about business planning and business modeling. And I want to ask, go back in your mind and think about when you first started, whether in entrepreneurship, leadership, because it was part of a corporate function, whatever. And I want you to now think about when you first started getting into business planning, business modeling, and think about yourself in 2022. What is it that you understand now that you didn't quite understand then? Or what pitfalls can you encourage people to be mindful of so they can have a much shorter learning curve? Um, Open floor to you guys.
Yeah, I would say that for me, I mean, there's so many things, you know. I think you first have to understand that, like life, business, your time in business, being an entrepreneur, it's a journey, it's a process, and you're always evolving. You're always learning new things, and then times are changing too, you know. So I would say, you know, have that mindset to understand that not because I did it yesterday or last year and it worked means it's going to work today. I always have to be revisiting my business model, you know. So the whole idea of being open and being versatile and being agile, I think are critical parts of modeling today. But one of the things that stuck out for me that I like to share with persons, which has been an area of personal feeling for me, is I heard a quote once that says, if you can see the customer through the customer's eyes, you can sell the customer what the customer buys. And in short, what I really means, or what it really meant for me, is that sometimes as an entrepreneur, I have an idea, right, that I am trying to get to market, but I'm not looking at it from the customer's perspective. How is it? So I'm fashioning my communication and my service, but it's based upon how I see it and what I think is value. So I think a very important thing is to connect with your customers and understand how they feel, understand what is value to them, because value to you, to what's in your mind. And it's happened to me on so many occasions. I had this big plan and I said, wow, this thing would sell because I like it. And then I put it to market and I didn't even get one sale. You understand? So, you know, earlier, Mr. DeFreitas mentioned surveys, and so you have to be constantly finding a way to get feedback into your business about if you're cooking, if you're catering, if you're doing here, if you're driving, if you're doing landscaping, whatever service. How is that service being received? Are people happy? Do people want more things added? Do they want more features? Keep that channel of communication open so that you can begin to continue to adjust your model, because it's not frozen in stone. Right? That would be my encouragement, and one of the areas where I made a lot of mistakes.
Yeah, I mean, bouncing off of what Rawle said, the word that stood out to me there was failure. I think I'm not sure if the education system trained us and nurtured us to accept failure as feedback. And what I learned early on in business is that whatever I perceive as failure, it is free feedback for me to go back to the drawing board and to adjust certain things and to change my mindset, because people think, okay, I need to invest, I need to do all of these things. But the core of business is mindset. Like, it might sound cliche, but it is mindset and understanding how am I positioning myself? What do I need to pivot from? Because my business really launched fully in the pandemic. Before the pandemic, I was very laid back, not thinking about anything major. And then when as the old people say, rubber hits the road and you realize that you may not have a job or any form of employment and you have to make your own, you realize, what skills do I possess now that I can translate in a digital sense, because that is where everyone is. And in the pandemic, I've never met so many different persons from across the world. Had not the pandemic come, I'm not saying that, glorifying it, but I'm saying that a lot of people got comfortable and the pandemic actually tested how sturdy you were, how strong you were, how resilient you were. And the advice I will give to persons is learn a new skill. Every quarter of the year, try and learn a new skill, because it's your skill set that is going to not just change your mindset, but it's going to bring in everything that you need to attract, whether it's money, whether it's new relationships, whether it's connections. And the second thing I would always tell persons is don't be afraid of taking time away to process and then to pivot and then to proceed to go forward, because people think, no, if I take a day off, that's dollars going, that's money moving. But think about it. The days that you're pushing and you're not actually processing and looking at the failure as feedback, that's time and money and effort going. So somebody might say, no, we don't have a day to take a day off because that's money going. No. Take the time that you need, process it, understand what is happening, pivot, and then proceed with caution, So that's the advice I will give persons.
Mr. DeFreitas, you're muted.
Right. No, I'm unmuted. Yeah. So, one of the main things we have to look at, one of the main aspects of life is entrepreneurship. And the thing about it, we have some misconceptions about entrepreneurship among people, right? I always saw entrepreneurship when I was young, much younger, as something like big business people and all that, But when I reflect on my own life, right, I'll share a short story. I used to work in a company called Telco, one of the precursors to TSTT. And I work in one department for quite a long time, right? One department in Telco, and that department transcended into TSTT. And I left the company in that same department. And it's only after I left, I realized that I was an entrepreneur within that company for years, because people would ask me, what you doing in this boy, can't stay in one department for all them years, boy, or you Marius? And I used to tell them, I would look for opportunities to serve and to learn and to grow. What people don't want to do, I used to try and do it. And it actually, that was my main learning in life in terms of getting skills, not pursuing a degree or ACC and all those things. Is really that deep involvement and understanding my job, whatever it was. And in some cases, even understanding other people's job and how it fit in with the whole, right, is what assisted me. So in a sense, I began my entrepreneurial journey there. So when I got an opportunity and I left the company, right, I was shocked at the amount of opportunities that presented themselves. But I just want to add one little thing to that. All that would be to naught if there is no guidance system involved, right? One of the main things I encourage people to do is to meditate. 1, 2, do a lot of reading. Try and get some good books. There is a book called The Greatest Salesman. That is an excellent book, right? There's another called The Richest Man in Babylon. I would recommend reading that book, right? What these books encourage you to do is to look within yourself, and it actually plants a seed in your subconscious mind, which, by the way, is directly connected to God. And most of us operate within that mode without even realizing it, right? And it is one of the most powerful tools we have. People get crippled by stopping and saying, how am I going to do this, boy? You hire a professional to give you advice and you're trying this, but it's not really working. That is because a lot of times people out of sync with the natural vibes, with your natural spiritual leaning. Everybody's spirit, we all have a purpose here on this earth, and we have to look deep within through prayer, supplication, meditation, reading good books to help guide us along the way. And when you're intentional about what you want to do, the world, the universe actually brings you in the space you need to be. I saw everybody listening to us here tonight could relate to some instance in your life when you were at the right place at the right time. That is that power at work, right? But what gets in the way is when we have negativity. We could be a victim of a domestic situation or childhood abuse or whatever. So the first thing I tell people, shake off all that baggage and reinvent yourself. And when you reinvent yourself, then you could actually start working on developing yourself, building a business. Right? Thanks a lot.
Thank you, Mr. DeFreitas. You know, even as we wind down, and you know, Mr. Rollocks, he gave a whole lot of examples of how to be innovative with the business planning and the business modeling. So I just want to do two quick things before we bring this convo to a close, which is one, I want to ask, and Mr. DeFreitas started us off, what resource can you recommend for persons to get more involved, to learn more, to read more, to embrace more, whether it's a book, a digital resource, because after all, it is book club conversations. So in this series, we're recommending material for our viewing audience to consider reading and perusing. Ms. Andrews, any recommendations that you could provide?
Yes, of course. So I believe, and I'm happy Mr. DeFreitas brought this up because reading is what got me to this place, you know, and I believe you should live a principled life. So as cliche as it might sound, I mean, I'm a Christian. One of the best books you could read within the Bible is the book of Proverbs. And funny enough, there are 30 Proverbs, which I read one proverb per day. So if it's the first of the month, I read the first proverb. And in there will give you all the business principles you need, all the life principles you need, all the character traits you need to understand, right? But for those who don't subscribe to the Bible for whatever reason, these are the two books that I will recommend for sure. This one, The Compound Effect, talking about, you know, it's the small, consistent changes that we make daily that makes the impact. It's a really, really good book. I wouldn't sell out much in it. And this, which is, I ended it in December, The Go-Giver, and understanding these principles, and especially the principle of the more that you give is the more that comes back to you. And it doesn't come back to you for any selfish gain, but so that you could give more. So those are the three books I will recommend, definitely. And one practice, because we need to have practices to change our habits every day. In addition to what Mr. DeFreitas said with meditation, every day I listen to something motivational while I'm getting ready. And it tells all my cells in my body to say, hey, we have to be in our A game. We're not going to let negativity come through. And we're going to deposit something to someone today. And that is what I do every day without fail. After I make up my bed and I say my prayers, I have to go to YouTube and click some motivational speaker. I love Miles Monroe because he's a principled man. I love Les Brown. And so that's what I will leave with the folks. So keep reading, keep listening, because faith comes by hearing, and hearing the word. So yeah.
Excellent. I love that, Candace. And I would want to start off by encouraging persons to use the Candace Andrews 4 P's of success. I think that is where they need to start. You know, if you didn't hear it before, you need to take a pit stop, you need to process, you need to pivot, and then you proceed. All right? So if you didn't get it before, pit stop, process, pivot, and proceed. All right? I'll add to that, for me, a very foundational book, and it's so much part of our conversation today, is that, you know, you can't really separate yourself from your business. Your success as an individual is tied into your success in business. You can't really pull it apart. All right? So getting the sense of harmony, and you know, the popular word they talk about work-life balance, or some say work-life harmony. I think is critical. People have realized that's critical to business success, right? And with that in mind, I would say a foundational book in business as a professional in life, The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People, Stephen Covey. If you haven't read that book, that's a place to start, because it helps you to hold, and that's a challenge, You may be a business person, but you have children to see about. You have your home to see about. You have a pretty vehicle. You have pressures on the boss. You have a health issue. How do you hold all these things in balance and succeed? All right. And in that book, there are 7 tips that he gives, apart from a whole lot of others. And really what Covey did is that he looked at the life of successful people over many, many years, and he boiled it down to these 7 habits. And the book says habits, right? These are not just things to talk about. These are things to practice and to do. Things like beginning with the end in mind, right? Doing the first thing first, sharpening your saw. These are very important principles. So I would encourage persons to, when you look at your business, when you're doing your business planning, an element of your business planning must include personal planning. How is this going to affect my family, my retirement, my ability to take time off, my rest, my health, my community, the environment? If those things are not included, eventually your business will become a challenge for you and for your family. Okay, so that would be my suggestion, in addition to the 4 Candace Andrews P's.
Definitely. I do want to recommend a book that it's both a book and a practice bottled up into one. Consider journaling. Pick a structure, pick any one of your choice, because when you get into journaling, whether you use a daily planner, whether you buy any sort of tailored version there is out there, it helps you to put structure to the plans and the models that you're developing, so that you can hold yourself accountable and have those notes to stir the vision that we started off this session chatting about. So indeed, it has been a great conversation as we've talked about many elements of business planning, business modeling, taking innovative approaches and understanding the importance of practical steps during these COVID recovery times. Joining in this evening, we've had Anthony DeFreitas, Candace Andrews, Rawle Rollocks, and of course, I am Alina Lewis. And I want to thank each person who would have tuned in live. And please do like, subscribe, follow wherever you find us. And real quick, Candace, where can people find you?
Good question. Well, in the age of being digital, there's the reality of being hacked. So right now, I'm not on social media, but if you want to have a chat with me, you can email me at Theatre Candace Life. That's THEATRE, Candace Life @gmail.com. And soon I'll be back on, but you can also find me on Facebook as Candace Andrews. But if you want to find me now, LinkedIn is the best place to be. And of course, if you're not on LinkedIn, you need to get on LinkedIn, because that's where you will find a lot of like-minded persons who are having discussions that are, very worthwhile. So you can find me at Candace Andrews on LinkedIn and shoot me a message and we can talk some more. But of course, you can find us here in this conversation as we go along the weeks ahead.
Thank you, Mr. DeFreitas. Where can people find you or the projects that you represent?
Right. Thank you very much. So they could either reach me through you, your media, or they could actually email me at Anthony, that's ANTHONY .WDeFreitas, that's WDEFREITAS @hotmail.com. Right? So they could either reach me here. All right, either through you, or they could reach me on my email, the Hotmail account, anthony.wdefreitas @hotmail.com.
Good. Mr. Rollocks, how can people find you or the projects that you represent?
Yes, well, my handle is VisionWorks, so they can get me at VisionWorks Solutions on Facebook, on LinkedIn, and on my website, visionworks.solutions. So just look for visionworks.solutions online and you can find me, or VisionWorks Solutions on Facebook or LinkedIn, and soon to IG.
I'm also on IG as AWDEFREITAS, AWDeFreitas on Instagram, and and I'm also on LinkedIn. So they'll see they could see my profile on LinkedIn as an ex-TSTT person and financial analyst consultant. Thank you.
I love it. Thank you. And of course, I'm Alina Lewis, and you'll find me everywhere at Alina Lewis, Success Coach. Looking forward to having you join us next Thursday as we continue with another engaging conversation. Of course, be sure to follow us using our social media handles so that you could get recaps, excerpts, and so much more from these conversations. Until then, everyone stay safe, take care, and continue planning and modeling for success. Have a great night, everyone.
Good night, everyone. Thank you.